After years of development and the community of fans continually hoping and wishing and wanting and praying and waiting to get their hands on the next installment of the Diablo franchise, ladies and gentlemen, the Diablo 3 Beta! All right, guys, with me today is DUCKVILLELOL, the StarCraft 2 community caster, all the way from Australia. Duckville, thank you for joining the show.
No problems, no problems.
It is a pleasure to have you, and it's been fun to work with you with getting these StarCraft 2 casts out there.
Yeah, it's been really good working with you and with Steven as well. It's been a lot of fun to get everything done and get everything out there for the guys, for guys and girls, of course, to watch. So
yeah, definitely. There are girls on the internet.
There certainly are. There certainly are, as we've sort of discovered in the past few days with some of the controversial things that have come about on Twitter and on Reddit and everywhere as well. It's been crazy.
Yeah, no, it is a lot of fun, and it's really cool that we were able to release those replays to the community casters and to have the fans be able to watch those games that are not on the red and blue stream. I wanted to highlight one of the games that you have casted after our little interview here to kind of do a game analysis and to show the different strategies of Huck versus Show. I know that you are a huge fan of Huck. How long have you been following Huck as a player?
Pretty much probably since the time he moved to Korea. So I wouldn't say I've been like on the bandwagon for a long time, but it's just the particular way that he plays is quite similar to the way that I play, because I play Protoss as well, and just his style, which seems to be a lot of he seems to favor a lot more of the Templar based play as opposed to Colossus, and I just have this huge hate for Colossus at the moment. So it's really good to actually see that the style that I play in, obviously in the very much lower sort of skill level on ladder, still actually works from time to time in the pro scene as well. Because he doesn't always get him. He doesn't always get the Colossus. So it's good to know that can work sometimes, despite some of the many bad games that I may have had whilst trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, I hear you on that. When I play as Terran, especially against Terran versus Terran, I really dislike making siege tanks. It just,
yeah,
I don't know what it is about them. I don't feel comfortable using them. I always feel I siege in the wrong places, but I'm getting more used to properly using them and to having that kind of no man's land in Terran games where it's just siege tanks versus siege tanks, whoever can like come up with the first nuke or whatnot.
And it just becomes this massive sort of placement game where you're just sort of sitting around trying to, see who can move in first and who's not going to move in first. I actually play random in team games, so I get a taste of all the races, which I suppose helps out as a caster as well, getting the feel of how some of the other races work. So
yeah, the mirror matches sometimes can get annoying because you're used to different strategy for the races and stuff like that. But it's part of the game. It's definitely part of the game.
No, that's exactly right.
Well, how did you first get into video games? What is your history with video games in general?
I suppose as any sort of child of sort of the late sort of early to late 80s, I suppose you could say. You sort of start off mainly with one of your parents actually doing something with gaming, and I actually had when I was 4, I first played Doom on my dad's computer, and just sort of went along from there, and got a bit crazy from there. I actually had when I lived because I sort of had to live with one of my parents at one time. And it was like my own version of the dark ages of computer gaming, because I actually did not have a PC or even the internet from pretty much the age of about 7 until 16 or so. So yeah,
wow, that's a long time.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Yeah. Like I actually there's certain things that I actually like missed out on in a way where like IRC and stuff like that. When that was sort of more popular in that sort of early 90s to late 90s period, I never got any experience with that sort of thing, like, chat rooms and that sort of stuff. So that was a bit of an interesting one. But yeah, then sort of when came out of the dark ages and actually started with StarCraft initially, didn't actually play too much, but yeah, eventually sort of just got rolling on StarCraft, started watching it, and played a bit of WoW at one point, and then pretty much, yeah, I unfortunately I don't actually have a huge attention span for gaming, so it's really funny. Like I'll play for like an hour and a half or something, maybe 2 hours, and then I'll just have to switch games. It's really kind of weird, especially for some of my friends if they want to, go to a LAN or something like that and play one particular game the whole time, and I'm just like, yeah, no, 2 hours is up. I'm gonna play, Day of Defeat or something like that. It's crazy.
Day of Defeat. Oh, I haven't played that in a long time.
Yeah, I used to play that a lot, but unfortunately, none of the Australian servers actually are really that sort of popular anymore. No one ever plays here, and it's just impossible to play on American servers with the lag that we get. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Well, the internet really changed gaming as a whole. I remember, I think, geez, when did we get the internet? I was like maybe 13, 14, maybe 12, but it was definitely the dial-up, like the 56K.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what was cool about the internet is games like StarCraft you could play online with Battle.net.
Yeah, that's right.
And I remember connecting and playing, or even connecting to other people's computers with the TCP/IP or whatever that.
Yeah, of course.
You could automatically connect. So
when you had that direct link, I think probably the first game that I actually played online against someone, like not sort of, I suppose you could say it was Doom, or maybe Doom 2, but with that sort of direct link that you can get where you actually dial into people. And but I would say probably one of the other first games that was like a full multiplayer thing was probably Descent. That was that sort of spaceship sort of flying game. But yeah, that was probably the first real game that I actually sort of started playing as a kid. So
cool. Now, what is it about StarCraft that makes you a fan?
Initially, when I first started playing, it would probably have been just the fact that it was whilst I suppose you could say at the time I didn't actually realize it, but just for me at the time, it was just such a complex game, and even just playing again on the campaign, because at that time when I first started playing, I didn't actually have the net. Even just playing the campaign, like doing certain things, you sort of start getting used to that, and then you move into seeing it online and seeing the Koreans doing these incredibly crazy things that they do, and and then seeing eventually, of course, the foreigners as they've started to step up in the StarCraft 2 scene. But I suppose, yeah, in terms of the game, it's definitely the complexity and obviously the balance as well. It's a bit of a generic line, but it is a very balanced game in a way. And obviously we're still evolving with it at the moment in StarCraft 2. But and I suppose probably the second main thing is probably more of a recent thing, is definitely the community. We've got just this incredible growth, especially over like this past year, of course, especially with all of the various streaming services like JTV and now, which is now Twitch, of course, and obviously the various companies that are coming up with their own tournaments and things. You've got MLG, of course. You got there's like various sort of hardware manufacturers that are doing their own things as well, like the GeForce, StarCraft Pro-Am, etc., like that. And yeah, so I suppose the scene in general is just really, really cool. It's not as much of a closed scene. Like if you go and make a forum post somewhere about StarCraft 2, you'll get your average troll that'll go in there and say that you're a total noob or whatever. But you'll definitely get people who will come along and say, all right, what's your ID? We'll have some practice games, or what's your ID? We'll talk about various things you can do better and all that sort of stuff. And it's a really good way to sort of experience that sort of game. It's just really cool.
Most definitely. The community for StarCraft 2 I found to be one of the best online communities as far as helping each other out. Yes, of course, we'll have trolls, but I mean, even within the competitive scene on the ladder, 99% of the people I go up against, it's always like, good luck, have fun, good game, but occasionally I get people like, oh, you have no skill because you made 3 racks and just walked into the Protoss base. It's like, well, I needed to attack then, buddy, unless I was going to die to your 3-gate robo. I mean, that's kind of what strategy's about, you know?
No, that's right, that's right.
The timing pushes.
Yeah, and actually speaking of the GLHF thing, I actually started playing on the Korean server just a couple of weeks ago. They, like, I don't know if it's a culture thing, but or just purely a ladder thing, and they just assume if you see like a name in English or something like that that they assume you can't understand or something, but rarely ever get GLHF on the Korean server. I don't know if that's just me, but it's really weird. That's one thing I've noticed. I'm actually gonna sort of start talking about that more on my website about the various things I've found on the Korean server. But that was a really weird one that I noticed. So.
That's interesting. Maybe because they're so busy trying to keep that APM up, doing other things, so they can't.
Yeah, you got to highlight those workers at the start of the game. You can't just let them highlight themselves. That's just never going to work.
Which is why the APM functionality is changing in the next patch. Or a friend of mine told me, and I believe it's written down. You could read for yourself, but. That the clicking of the or the little boxes that you make at the beginning to highlight all the workers is not going to count towards your APM. So
yeah,
they're going to.
I think it's when you press because at the moment, if I remember correctly, it's if you press a hotkey, like if you're pressing 1 and 2, sort of thing, and if you press 1 like 5 times, that counts as an action. But now if you press 1 5 times, it only counts as 1 action, so that doesn't contribute as much to your APM, which is what a lot of people do. But
yeah, they just like select. If you watch his hands, like I mentioned in my last show, he is so fast that I don't know if he's actually issuing any commands, if he's just actually hitting the buttons and cycling through.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I don't think it's going to be a huge change to the actual gameplay. People. I mean, I do it at the beginning to keep my hands kind of warm and going fast, but at the same time to be like, yeah, look at my APM. It's like I'm in the hundreds. And then it drops down once I start fighting because I'm too spread out and I start thinking, which is what you shouldn't do in StarCraft 2. If you stop to think, you're dead. You have to just react and flow.
Yeah, it all becomes muscle memory, and it's just a bit of, oh, my hands sort of just flicked across and pressed, E or A or whatever. Yeah. Oh, I didn't actually mean for that to happen, but it's working.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Well, what's inspired you to start casting?
Probably, the first sort of proper tournament that I watched was back in 2000 and apart from the Korean sort of cast, which I used to watch obviously a long time ago, but sort of the foreigner-based ones where Tasteless was casting with he was eventually with Super Daniel Man at the time on GOM TV for the Brubor Avatech Intel Classic, and I actually watched with one of my best friends, and we sort of just started watching, and it was just heaps of fun to actually have it as a bit more of an English-based cast, and it was just really cool. And then, I sort of started looking at it, and at the time, because of my background, I wasn't a super awesome Brew Ball player, but then, when StarCraft 2 came along, I sort of figured, I'll try and do my best to learn a bit more about the game and actually get some skills so I can do it a bit, do some casting and give it a go. So it started off with a 2v2 tournament, which a website that I was part of for a little bit, which is unfortunately not around anymore, but started off with that and sort of progressed from there. It's been a lot of fun, I think, and also there aren't, I think there's maybe, like, apart from the obvious ones of Unstable and a couple of other people, there aren't really many community casters apart from in the Australian scene. So it was good to sort of do that, perhaps just to, that's one of the main reasons why I actually do it, is to sort of just bring a little bit of attention to the Australian and Southeast Asia side of things, where we don't get as much coverage. Of course, we don't actually have a bunch of pro gamers. We've got a couple maybe that are actually of high quality international level, and that's really about it. So I try and do a lot of Australian casts of either of some of my friends who are much higher ranked, or like some of the guys from the proxy team, or just some of the local tournaments and that sort of thing, that if I can get my hands on the replays. So it's pretty much just to try and help out with the local scene, I suppose, is the main sort of goal why I do it.
Right on, right on. Do you cast any other games, or you stick with StarCraft 2?
Uh, it's a interesting topic because at the moment, actually, a while back, I actually used to do like compilation videos. You know, like some of those ones that are on various sites, like with MLG's compilation stuff, or with the IPL compilation, like the top 10 sort of things like that. I used to do those, but for Dota. So I have a
Oh,
few of those still on the channel, yeah. And but other than that, no. At the moment, I just sort of sticking with StarCraft 2, sticking with what I know, I suppose. The controversial part about it is that Diablo 3 lingering in the distance is quite tempting to me, and I don't know how you could actually uh, make a sort of casting thing out of it. I suppose perhaps with the arena thing that they've got, but that could be something that I might look at in due time. So.
oh, most definitely. I am so pumped for that game, and having played the PvP arena at BlizzCon last year, that's what I did for most of the event. Like, I would skip out on other stuff. Like I have to make a confession. I would even skip out on some of the StarCraft 2 tournament stuff going on. I would come and watch during more of the semifinals and the finals, but for most of the time, man, I was playing the heck out of Diablo 3. I loved it, and the PvP arena is so much fun, and it is fun to watch, and it is so fast and action oriented. It's not like the WoW PvP arena where it's just running around a pillar and
Yeah,
throwing
yeah,
off heals. It's not
and
like
going
that.
invisible for 15 minutes. God,
Yeah, no,
I actually, that's probably the like in my opinion one of the worst things too that I've ever watched was watching. They actually had some WoW stuff on GOM TV a little while back, and it was just like, okay, the rogue is invisible and he's been that way for 15 minutes.
yeah,
All right, something's eventually going to happen. Okay, cool. Now it's ended after 5 seconds. Cool.
yeah. That's that game and that format. May be fun to play, but it does not translate well into a spectator esport
Yeah,
at all.
exactly.
I definitely
Exactly.
feel that Diablo 3 has that potential and more.
Mm.
It's just based on what Blizzard wants to do with it. But if the community is there, which I'm pretty sure it will be, then
Mm.
it can definitely turn into an esport. So it's really exciting, and just hope the beta comes out soon. We're really, really pumped for it. Do you have any?
Definitely.
Do you have any casters that are your favorite? Obviously, besides yourself, but are you inspired by anybody else, or do you like to watch anybody else?
I actually sort of go onto each of my own videos and press the like button. Not really.
Yeah,
No.
who doesn't?
um, I suppose out of the top tier, the god tier, if you will, of the casters, I like DJ Wheat a lot. His style. Obviously, I think he's a bit more of the play-by-play style, but he does a really good job of it. And apart from DJ Wheat in sort of the big name scene, it'd have to be Lee Hyun-joo from the Korean casters of GSL, and it totally has nothing to do with the fact that she's ridiculously hot. Um, but I suppose out of the community casters, I suppose you've got Adebisi, who does a really great job as well. And there are a couple of other really sort of super unnamed sort of casters. You have 10 sort of subscribers, but they're doing a good job of actually just sort of putting some games out there and giving it a shot, which is really I think what a lot of the casting community is about. If it's not about just actually, holy crap, I found this really awesome replay on the internet, I'm going to cast it just for some fun. It's about actually sort of casting some stuff and just showing people what's out there, and it's really good. So those are some
and
of my favorites.
it's really cool to see them do it and to emulate what they're doing, and even if you're able to contact them to see how they're doing it, what kind of hardware and software they use, which is important for the quality. And honestly, with an audience and the internet and with HD technology, the better the quality, the more viewers you can have, and the easier it is to advertise the videos.
Yeah, that's right. And I think there are some really good stories about the casting scene as well. Like I think the one of the stories with Total Biscuit getting his partnership on YouTube, and I think if I remember correctly, I don't actually know the full story, but I'm pretty sure that like Husky helped out with that. I can't actually remember, but it was just a cool story like that, and things like that which happen a lot. And yeah, I have actually had a few people say, you know, what sort of gear are you using? And actually, just yesterday I had a female caster who's of course a much rarer thing in the community as well, but actually just asking me, you know, what sort of programs do we use, what sort of you know, systems and that sort of stuff, and it's really good to help out with that sort of thing. So.
It is. Well, while we're on the topic, what kind of hardware and software do you use? Like, what kind of microphone? What kind of editing software?
I have actually got for the mic. I've just got a standard sort of Razer headset. I know a lot of people use just sort of fancy sort of microphones with you know, with voice blockers and things like that on them or whatever. But I've just got a headset. I've got using Fraps to record, Sony Vegas to put it all together, and I use Audacity for the audio. You can technically use Fraps to record the game sound and the voice as well, but sometimes I get these really weird things in my cast sometimes where I need to play around with the audio, which is good in Audacity. So
and Audacity is a free program.
It certainly
I've used
is.
it as well for editing. Well, also, you know, as much as we can put it on our computer and do the editing and the sound works, we have to publish it. We have to put it in a distribution system. And the internet in particular with Justin TV, or now Twitch TV, YouTube, MLG.TV now is posting these VODs. It's cool to have these different forums to post these videos, and for a forum like YouTube where you can post pretty much any video you want as long as it conforms to, you know, their regulations. And we've seen their growth continue to evolve, and their functionality continue to evolve as more people have gotten broadband, as their servers have grown, and as their popularity has grown. Do you feel that these formats can improve in any way?
I think most of the services, like those sorts of things, the platforms that you've mentioned, they're doing a great job. I suppose from like just purely as a nitty gritty type of thing where it's really, you know, very small sorts of things. A couple of them, especially JTV and Twitch TV, I feel as if their social media sort of integration could be a little bit better. As I said, it's a very small, picky thing, but just sometimes when you want to sort of, you know, if you want to tweet that you're streaming or something like that, I actually do it manually myself, because I just wish there was a button that actually said just like bam and you're streaming. There is a version of that on Twitch, but I don't know, it could be a little bit simpler. But other than that, I think that facet of the community is doing a great job in helping out the casters, especially, of course, and just making it more accessible. And I think that's the key part. Like, you know, if you really wanted to as a caster now, if I wanted to, let's just say there was an event going on right now at 10:30 at night down at the local net cafe, you could head down there, take your phone, and just, you know, record some content there. You can have a look around, as we've seen with the GSL Code A qualifiers. Like I think the last qualifiers we saw Artosis and there was one dude, I totally forgotten his names. There was one guy just running around with a tiny little like a little handy cam sort of thing, just recording stuff and just either streaming it directly or actually uploading it straight to YouTube. And those sorts of things are just really cool for actually making sure that things continue to grow. So yeah, I guess there's not really too much to improve. There will be the odd things which people pick up on, but as a whole, I think everyone's doing a really good job.
Yeah, and each of these platforms is in perpetual beta continually. You know, it's not the final
That's
version.
right.
They're continuing to add more features, and like you brought up, the social media aspect, that is true for that connectivity. So it is really cool, and it has been instrumental in allowing casters and other producers. I mean, you are a producer. You produce content and you post it to post it and have a distribution system. So it is very cool. It's interesting times on the internet. All right, let's talk briefly about Heart of the Swarm. We have some details coming out. We don't know exactly which units will be changed or removed or added. Do you have any concerns about Heart of the Swarm of changing the game of StarCraft, or are you more intrigued of what's going to happen, or what are your feelings about that?
I'm as we've all obviously, I would hope if you haven't actually seen them, make sure you go out and watch the new trailers and things that have been out, especially those sort of in-game trailers which were just released. What was it, like last month or something like that?
Yeah.
We've all seen like those evolution things for the Zerg just look absolutely awesome. Like those look really cool to play around with. It seems a little bit like there's that sort of like the augmentation system in Deus Ex, which is sort of like a little bit of an influence there. I know it's obviously not, but that same sort of RPG feel about it is there, where you can say, we had that obviously in Wings of Liberty, where you could upgrade the various units and that sort of thing. And I think for the moment, it sort of looks as if they're taking that a tiny bit further as well, which is just really cool. So I really hope that looks really good. I'm actually a big fan of the single-player versions of the games. Like, I know a lot of people will purely be in it for multiplayer, but the single-player is always a good part to focus on as well. But in terms of concerns, not really. I suppose as a long-time Brood War fan, I've really wanted the Reaver to come back. But I'm sure if you introduce that somehow, a lot of Zerg players, there would be tears all over the floor if the Reaver was to come back.
Yeah.
But, look, I'd be happy to take a Reaver instead of a Colossus. I mean, that'd be awesome. But no, I think it looks good. I would really hope, actually, I suppose one concern would be, I would hope that they would revamp a lot of the things on Battle.net. It's like a lot of the chat functionality. It seems really like some parts of it just seem really antique. Like there are obviously these various things which they are fixing up in this next patch, like the busy status and people inviting you to parties and that sort of stuff like that, which are really going to help a lot of the pro gamers, I think. But it just feels as if there is still something, like there are a few things that are there, and there are a few things that could be missing. So I'm hoping that there's perhaps a little bit of a revamp of Battle.net in a way, but obviously, who wants chat rooms? So
yeah, well,
see what happens.
they had from the post last year, a year and a half ago, they had delayed StarCraft 2 for working on Battle.net 2.0 to kind of fix it up and fix the functionality of it. But I also believe that it was the cross-game capability that they had to focus on as well, because you can talk to people in-game for World of Warcraft, Diablo 3, and StarCraft 2, which I think is really cool, how you can switch between and be able to connect to your friends on each game. But yeah, there has been a lot of the feedback from the community saying, like, it's not a well-made system. The chat rooms are like an afterthought. We still don't have the map marketplace that they had talked about, which hopefully will be released. In my personal opinion, I haven't really had too much of an issue with Battle.net because I get on there to play the game. And I think the matchmaking system on Battle.net is the best matchmaking system in the history of video games so far.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it is incredible. So if I had to have a prettier Battle.net or a better matchmaking system, I would have chosen the better matchmaking system. So
definitely. Like a lot of initially, a lot of people were complaining about the sort of white space where there was just this blank sort of section of the UI and everything like that. But I think those sorts of things, it's not really too much of a problem if you think about it. As you said, you come on to play the game. You don't come on to socialize. If you want to do that, go and sit on Facebook or something. But
which you can connect to on Battle.net.
Exactly. You can talk to your friends and everything. But yeah, I think there are a lot of points to both that Blizzard have done a great job with it, and obviously there are some parts, as you said, like with the matchmaking system, with some parts of the friends system and everything like that, which are really good. But yeah, hopefully they can do a couple more revamps, just a few more things to make sure it's all perfect, and I'm sure everyone will be happy, which never happens, but we can all hope for the best.
Yeah, and Blizzard, even though it takes them a while, really comes through with their games, and they do listen to the community. I just feel that once Diablo 3 is released, it's really kind of a push for them to make sure the compatibility with Battle.net 2.0 works with all the games, and from there, I'm sure they can maybe focus it a little bit more. I mean, once Diablo 3 is released,
Definitely.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are working on that game, but I'm sure it's a lot. Well, you had mentioned the Australian scene a little bit as far as the number of pro gamers. What is the video game or StarCraft culture like in Australia compared to Korea, compared to Europe, compared to America? How do you feel about what video games and StarCraft means to your country and your community compared to the rest of the world?
It's a really good question because a few people have actually asked me previously, like, when a lot of people, for some reason, like some people have real trouble identifying accents, which I find really funny on YouTube, and a lot of people say, are you from Ireland? And I'm like, no, dude, like total other side of the world. But anyway, and then they sort of ask, what's it like in the Australian scene and that sort of thing, and I suppose, like, if you look at it, I suppose probably the easiest way to explain it is if you look at it on a scale where, in terms of interactivity with the community and the depth, sort of the penetration of esports, or at least StarCraft, into the scene where Korea is a 10 and, 1 is Antarctica or something, you would probably put Australia at about a 4, where we've actually people have started getting the idea and have started getting it, and like in that sort of situation, I would probably put the US maybe like a 6 or a 7, at least a 7, where the big sorts of, where you've got big events and that sort of thing, which are now starting to come up. You've got companies, like, obviously there are the various sponsors for all the sorts of events that go on, and those have started, chipping in and seeing that, this is actually a big market. But here in Australia, we're still sort of waiting for that situation where you can say, we've got the Australian League gaming going on next month or whatever, down in Melbourne or in Perth or something like that. So it's sort of still like, it's still in a very much like a child sort of phase in a way, just because there are also various things about gaming here which still haven't been taken seriously. Like, it's only just last month that the government that we have here has actually agreed in theory for like an R18 level for gaming. Where you've got those sorts of games that obviously have a bit more violence or whatever, or adult themes or whatever. They've only just agreed that they might be able to put that in so that we can get some certain games which are of that level, like perfect example, Left 4 Dead 2. Legally speaking, you couldn't get the like the full version of Left 4 Dead, where you're cutting up heads and bloods everywhere and all that sort of stuff.
Uh-huh.
In our legal version of Left 4 Dead 2, you kill one of the zombies and then their body just disappears. Nothing else actually happens. It's
Okay.
It's like, yeah, it's
right.
really crazy. Like finally we've started breaking in with that sort of thing, and obviously, as I mentioned, there are various tournaments that go on, like especially in the main sort of cities in Australia, Sydney and Melbourne. We have a lot of tournaments going on, which are just starting to get big. We've got the various internet cafes that have really gotten into the gaming scene as well, and of course our own sort of version of Barcraft. We've got Mana Bar up in Brisbane and down here in Melbourne, which I'm actually going to next week, which should be a bit of fun, where you've actually got a sort of more of a gamer focused like bar sort of thing, which is good. So we're getting there, but it's still a little way behind America and sort of way behind Korea. So we're eventually going to get there.
Yeah, we hear from the news on releases of games, most notably lately was Mortal Kombat, how I believe it was not even released in Australia because of the content. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's true. To be quite honest, I didn't actually pay that much attention to it because I'm terrible at fighting games. But I'm pretty sure. If it was released, it was actually a cut down version. Like what was it in something like in Mortal Kombat? You could actually see the bones that you're breaking or something
Yep,
crazy like
the
that.
X-ray moves
Yeah.
you can, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that definitely wouldn't be released here. So. Yeah,
Another game was The Witcher 2, where the developers had said that there would be no censored version of the game, and then
Yeah.
yet for Australia and New Zealand they did have a bit of a censored version. So
Yeah.
we do hear about those things, especially because of on the forums.
Yeah,
People in
definitely.
Australia will be like, "No, why?" They'll get
With
upset about
yeah,
it.
and it's you get those reactions, and we just sort of sit here and it's like, well, okay, I'm 25 years old. I'm pretty sure I know that there are going to be various things I can see in video games, and I may see a head get cut off, but it's my own decision. Shouldn't be like a government's decision or something like that. But
Yeah.
there are some ways, like obviously, of course, there are the various sort of non-legal ways around it, but sometimes there are some various games that can slip through things like Steam, which somehow we can still get the full versions without it being illegal in the context of that we've that you sort of make a patch to the game or something like that and sort of cheat your way around it. But
Yeah.
there are some weird things that can happen, especially with Steam. So
So
I don't know.
So technically, some of the rated mature games can be contraband in Australia, if it's
Technically speaking, yeah. Like
wow.
if you, yeah, if like they can be contraband in a way. So I don't know. It's just a crazy topic, and hopefully over the next probably 12 months, if not less, hopefully the big suits and everything up in the government can actually get something done, and we don't have to worry about it at all ever again. So
Yeah. Well, within American culture, as far as media, there's a lot of violence, and I mean, we get desensitized to it kind of quickly because we grow up watching it. I mean, not the cartoons are fine, but it's more of like the PG-13 movies and leading up into the R-rated movies. That's what it has. And in video games, they'll definitely have a mature rating for violent video games. But if there's nudity, oh my goodness, everybody goes nuts. I mean, there's nudity in this game. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh. Or if there's nudity in a film, and people just go to the film just to see that part. That's how it was, kind of in the 80s and 90s.
yeah,
And if I take a step back, I find it kind of funny that if somebody gets their head chopped off, it's okay. But if you show breasts, that's a no-no.
yeah,
So,
exactly. They're not even real. They're not even real.
yeah, it's video games itself have been, have pushed the envelope as far as controversy because not of the content itself, because we have seen that already in movies being depicted, but it's the mentality of the politicians and of the older folks that did not grow up with video games and equate video games to children. And they think, well, children will be playing this. We can't have this if the children are playing it. We must help the children. I mean, that's what it always comes down to. It's like the children, which, of course, I wouldn't want a young child exposed to these things in video games, but that's where the parents step in. They need to be aware of what their kid's looking at. And I'm not saying they have to be harsh and totally dominating in the house. It's just you should teach your kid correct principles and let them govern themselves when they become, teenagers or older. And it's unfortunate, man, that people that make the laws are not familiar with what they're making laws about. They don't play these games. They're not familiar with the video game community and what these video games can offer, or what is the spirit of the game. You could definitely have violence in a video game, but what's that violence entailing? Is it somebody defending themselves? Is it war? Is it killing monsters? So,
like, yeah, if you had a video game about someone, running over someone to protect a church or something like that, that could be fine. But It's
Yeah.
just it's just kind of weird. And I think actually your point there about the difference in the American culture to Australia is a good point as well, because I think it's kind of a weird sort of conundrum there, but because we always get things in terms of technological things, we always get them a lot later than the rest of the world, just purely because of various reasons, and of course because we're quite far away. But because gaming and that sort of thing was a little bit later here than it was for the US, you could make the argument that the people who didn't grow up with gaming, such as like the much older politicians and that sort of things that look after these sorts of things, may not be around for the American culture, which is why things may be a little bit different. Whereas those people can still be around here because gaming was a much later sort of thing. So it's I suppose one thing to think about as well when it comes to that.
Well, hopefully, in the future, leaders in both of our countries or throughout the world will better understand the realm of video games to make more educated decisions on ratings, on censorship, and things like that. So it's getting there. Our generation is getting older. I mean, we are pretty much the video game internet generation, and and the more knowledge that you have, the better decisions you can make, in all aspects, I think. So.
That's right, and if they don't get it, then at least make them play it so we can just smash them at a game.
Down, yeah. Most definitely, my friend. Well, thank you so much for your insight and for your answers. It's great to have you on the show as a community caster, and you can see Duckville LOL's casted matches on MLG.TV for both Raleigh and Anaheim, and I'm sure we'll have you cast some of the matches for Orlando. And right now, we're going to take a quick break, but before that, Duckville, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I just obviously, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, just sort of starting up my own site as well, which is going to be, I'm trying to make it a little bit more like a developer's sort of commentary version of a website where if you want to ask questions about casting or if you want to get involved with that sort of thing or the general scene, then you can jump on the site and ask me a question, or if you want to perhaps contribute like a post or something like that yourself about the StarCraft scene, then you can always do that, which is on DUCKVILLELOL.com, and still developing the site a little bit at the moment, but yeah, that's the sort of aim of the site, and of course we'll have various things for my casts and things like that as well, so it should be a bit of fun, and yeah.
Right on, right on. Well, make sure to check out that website. And so, guys, we're going to take a quick break, but we come back. Duckville and I are going to cast a game of Huck versus Show and to focus on the strategies of both the players. So, we'll see you in a second.